the other team that was in the running to go to the college football playoff. And in fact, last year, it kind of felt like this was their year because they were all in. You look at the names they brought in via the portal, the names they retained, having a veteran quarterback with Jaxson Dart, having a veteran play caller with Lane Kiffin, having a solid run game, making up with what you brought in with weaponry and wide receivers and whatnot. And then you proceed to lose in week 5 for your first SEC game. And then you proceed to lose to LSU despite leading the entire game except for the final play. And then losing in the swamp to a Florida team where you were in control. And Jaxson Dart actually could have been in New York City for a Heisman Trophy presentation if you take out that final 15 minutes. And I've already said this a billion times. I'll say it one more just for the folks out in Oxford. Ole Miss gets to the playoff. I feel like they're the most dangerous team that nobody would want to face. That's how much I like their roster. But now they have to replace a ton of production, including a quarterback in Austin Simmons, multiple wide receivers, more defensive line depth, really, really big names to replace in the defensive line. Question of the secondary, but it is Lane Kiffin. It is Ole Miss. They seem to overexceed expectations in years where people doubt them. So, Dave, what's the reason they can't make the college football playoff?
Why they can? I mean, I'm going to say because of like continuity on the staff. I mean, again, as much turnover transition as they've had on the personnel side, on the roster. I mean, you mentioned it, Bear. I mean, they do have obviously their head coach back, Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss back. You had Pete Golden back, and you even have the special teams guy, Jake Schoonover, back. Like, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot in the sport now. I think maybe that could be a little bit of a scale, like give or take from the transition from the personnel. And again, I know you had all these guys back, but at the same time, I mean, I know you had a lot of these coaches there last year too with a lot more experience. But again, I'm just trying to look at it from that side of things because, again, they did lose a lot. Right. I mean, Austin Simmons is obviously a natural, easy answer. He's going to have to play really well for them to make it. And I think the schedule, again, is beneficial. But I'm looking at the continuity on that staff. That's key to have 3 primary coordinators, your 4 primary coaches in that building all coming back again. Everybody's kind of getting used to that system. So that can help a lot of these newcomers, the new transfer portal players and the freshmen coming in and transition a little easier.
I won't go with the low-hanging fruit, which is the schedule. Hey, look at what you play. Look at who you play. Look at when you play them. That's guaranteed to, if everything clicks, 10-2. 10-2 gets you the college football playoff. But I got 2 answers. Number 1 is Austin Simmons. We only saw him for a quick cup of coffee against Georgia. He was in control. The game did not look overpowering to him. It didn't feel like that he was out of place. It didn't look like he was a backup. It felt like that there were some limitations to what the play calling was, but his on-field demeanor was fine. And he built a really good relationship with Caden Lee, who's going to be his wide receiver number 1 this year. So that feels really good. Number 2, he's also didn't go to baseball this past season. He was fully invested in football. So we had an entire offseason to learn the playbook, build that rapport with a bunch of young wide receivers and a bunch of newcomers. So I think that's already just a huge win and advantage. And then number 2, Lane Kiffin has this knack about just finding guys in the portal that usually we'd hear about, like, okay, cool, they would get looked at by Wake Forest, or they would get looked at by Oklahoma State or Utah, or, hey, Texas Tech did them a little bit of change. That's cool. And they go to Oxford, and they're far better than advertised. Like, I was speaking to some people when Trey Harris came to town in 2023. And they said Trey was going to be a really solid receiver, but they liked some of the in-house products. They really, really liked Jordan Watkins when he came in from Louisville. And Trey Harris in game 1 broke the school record for receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in a single game. And I get it. It was against Mercer. But my point is that Lane has this knack of just going and landing guys that you think, hey, really nice, solid contributor at one school, elite at this school. And they have it once again. I don't know who it's going to be. It may be Jaxson Stribling, who really does feel like, in my opinion, probably the highest upside of the wide receivers. But watch it be Harrison Wallace coming on in from Penn State. Drew Allen in the play calling sucked, and now he ends up being really good.
Caden Lee's a good player. I could see him come on for him.
But it could be Caden Lee, but he's not a transfer. I'm just using transfer.
You're using transfer. I thought you were talking about anybody.
Like Luke Haas was a top-tier recruit coming out of high school, and he didn't live up to expectations at Arkansas. And if you told me, oh, the dude's going to win the John Mackey Award, I'd say, where did he go to school next? Oh, he went to Lane Kiffin down in Oxford. Okay,
he can stay healthy. He can be productive.
Like that's what it is. And there's certainly some defensive players that, they were bad fits in one location and they're really good fits for Pete Golding. So it's so hard for me to doubt Lane Kiffin at this point, that he didn't do his homework and his due diligence and look through all of this ample tape to say, this kid's a really good fit that can become an all-SEC player. This kid's a really good fit that can be a day one starter for us. This kid's a really good fit that can put us in a position to where we need a third down crucial drive, and they're going to be good. So it's like, at this moment, why am I doubting Lane Kiffin? Why is the world doubting Lane Kiffin? Because it also feels like in the years that we say, hey, 8 wins is a really good year, 9 wins, really productive, they end up setting school records. I mean, I remember in 2023, 9-3 was the expectation. They went 11-2 and they beat Penn State in the Peach Bowl. The most wins in program history in a single season. He does this all the time. And so this just feels like the epitome of Lane Kiffin. No expectations, a bunch of transfers that were good names, but weren't elite names. New quarterback coming on in. Yeah, 8-4 will sell for. And they march on and they beat LSU and they beat Oklahoma and they kick the shit out of South Carolina. And they end up going to finishing 10-2 and they're in the college football playoff. That's peak Lane Kiffin at its finest.
Yeah, I mean, you looking at their depth chart and stuff too. I think one of the more underrated position groups maybe in the league, if Luke Has can stay healthy, is their tight end room. I mean, dude, Daquan Wright was better than Priestcorn was. At the end of the year, he was a very underrated transfer from Virginia Tech. I mean, that tight end room, if Haas can stay healthy, that'll be big for them this year. You like that tight end room right there a lot, just looking at it.
What's your reason they can't make the playoff?
I mean, it's obviously the natural production, but I'm really going to look at one specific position. It's going to be in the secondary. Yeah. I mean, you lost a ton, and they didn't even get those numbers healthy in the spring. I mean, they were just bringing. You still see them. They still brought some guys in even after the spring, where you're like, this guy's going to have to contribute. Maybe I think Pete Golden. I think the reset in Oxford for him coming up from Tuscaloosa was good. It helped him refine his skills. Lane doesn't mess with him like Nick did. You can tell he's in his environment. He's comfortable. I think he will get the most out of this secondary. But again, it's the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. At some point, you can only do so much. So again, I can see people being on Pete's ass a little bit this year because they do. I mean, Trey Amos, big time pickup they got. They lose Isaiah Hamilton. That was the kid from Houston, if I remember right. It came over. Yeah, I mean, you lost significant. John Saunders is gone. Trey Washington is gone. I mean, who steps up in that back end there? I mean, that's kind of my concern right there. I mean, the Ricky Fletcher, who was banged up a lot from South Alabama last year, I like his measurables. I like his range if he can stay healthy. Not a Sage Ryan fan. LSU let him walk and upgraded. Jalen Braxton, I've heard, question a little competitive toughness. They're just very thin back there. So that would be my concern. And again, they lost production in a lot of other places.
I'll go with the very, very low-hanging fruit, and it's the exact same reason why I say Lane Kiffin in a year where you don't expect him to do anything, it ends up coming back to bite him in the ass. Lane makes a bad call. It ends up being an total implosion in one of these games that you got to win. Because if we've seen it. We've seen it on so many occasions here, and that's the frustrating part. You're down by what? You were tied, weren't you, when you played in Athens last year or 2 years ago? You were tied 7-7
in the first quarter, yeah.
Yeah, and then immediately, okay, let's go to work. The offense falls apart. The play calling becomes askew, and it's like a 52-17 beatdown. Okay, well, you got to play again in Athens this year. Do you have maybe, I don't know, Logan Diggs get off 80-yard scamper, opening drive, next drive? You watch as Austin Simmons connects with Caden Lee, and you get a field goal out of it. And it's like, okay, it's 10-7. And then somehow the defense gives up a big-time play to Zachariah Branch, and your play calling goes off the rails. And now it becomes a 48-17 finish, and you only score 7 more points. That is typical Lane. And that's something that has been a part of his mantra for a while. And it's not a negative because I think Lane absolutely loves being viewed as the underdog, and he's great at that role. And that's one of the things that stands out so much when I talk about Ole Miss in a year where the expectations are very minimal, or at least at the standard of what we've seen in recent memory. It's like, oh, he's going to absolutely crush it. It's like what we say with Shane Beamer. He's going to hit the over every single year, but it's better because I feel like that Ole Miss is a more prepared team right now than South Carolina at times, but they just shoot themselves in the foot at the most ill-advised times. And what if it's not in conference, Dave? What if it's actually a Washington State loss? that's the game they lose. Or they lose to John Summerall and Tulane. And it's like, now we have 3 teams that are all 10-2, and we can throw them in the playoff. But Ole Miss has the weakest resume. Ole Miss has the worst loss out of all of them. And Ole Miss also doesn't have enough to guarantee themselves in the play. Like, it's little things like that I think could really affect it. I also think not having
you don't trust Lane.
That's part of it. I also agree with you, though. The secondary is probably the biggest low-hanging fruit because there's a lot of newness there, and it's...
Dude, you could go the quarterback spot. I mean, I know I'm a fan of Austin Simmons, too, but again, Jaxson Dart's arguably the 3rd best quarterback in
Ole Miss
history.
And
so, I mean,
certainly, in my opinion, the best quarterback for most of the year in the SEC. Not all the time, but for consistency standards, he was probably the best quarterback in the SEC last year.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a secondary. Again, you can make a case at a lot of different spots.